Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. Ja Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. Hope you're having some wonderful and happy holidays. The Grizzlies, I hope they had some good holidays, but on Thursday night, they were annihilated by the Denver Nuggets. Previously in the week, they did, however, come back and have a miracle victory over the New Orleans Pelicans. On this episode, I'm going to talk about both of those games in a tiny bit of detail. Before we get there, if you want to support this program, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. If you want to join the Slack channel or the Grits and Grinds specific Slack channel, well, guess what? That costs $3 a month for the next 2 days. On January 1st, that price is going up to $5 a month. So if you want to lock in that $3 a month price for perpetuity, you need to sign up before January 1st. Also, if you join the Slack channel, you get access to some exclusive bonus content. If you want to support the show, do all that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right. I guess let's start with the fun game, which is the miracle comeback. I call it a miracle comeback because there was a jump ball with 1.4 seconds left, and the Grizzlies were down by 1. So the odds of winning in that situation, extremely low. However, the Grizzlies won the toss. They got a timeout with 0.4 of a second left. So they were allowed to inbounds the ball with 0.4 of a second left. And then they got a foul call on Jonas Valanciunas on the subsequent inbounds play. And all of that only happened because Ja Morant had a foul overturned, or the foul call against the Pelicans was overturned on Ja's drive to the basket. Like, initially it looked like, hey, Ja Morant's going to shoot 2 free throws for a chance to win the game. Then the Pelicans challenged it. The call was overturned. And then it became like, well, all right, we lost. That was that. But then they win the jump ball. They get the inbounds play. There's the foul on Jonas Valanciunas. Good play design. I mean, everyone knew what was going to happen. Basically, your best chance of winning is getting that up towards the rim, and you either get a foul call or you knock it in. Jonas did not do a good job of not fouling. Of course, then the Pelicans challenged this call again. In real time, this was it like 12 minutes? I didn't do a stopwatch. But from the time that Ja was fouled, quote unquote fouled, with 1.4 seconds left, to the time we went to overtime, it was at least 15 minutes. This is the argument against coaches having unlimited challenges if they get the calls right. At some point, you're balancing this being a entertainment product, and it's not that entertaining. Even if they got all the calls right. I mean, by the way, the last 2-minute report says, because of the challenge call or the challenges that were used, every single call in the final 2 minutes and overtime was correct. But there's some balance between getting things correct and making it a product people want to consume on television. But anyways, Jaren got the foul call, made 1 out of 2 free throws. He missed the second one. It looked like Marcus Smart got fouled with 0.4 of a second left, or the final 0.4. That's the one where the last 2-minute report said no, correct no call. Then in overtime, the Grizzlies put it away. So that meant after that one that the Grizzlies improved to 4-0 with Ja Morant. Ja Morant had a massive game, scored 31 points, had 7 assists. You had this team rally for the third time in 4 games from double-digit second-half deficits. Now, I don't need to tell you this. Being down by double digits in the second half and coming back and winning is not a sustainable model for success. But it still made us, ecstatic. It was one of those wins that you pulled from the jaws of defeat And with the Grizzlies then improving to 4-0 when they had Ja Morant, and of course the winning in the same manner that you won the previous week against the Pelicans, I feel like we were all riding high after that game. It was also the return of Marcus Smart, and Marcus Smart made a huge impact on the game, especially in the fourth quarter and in overtime. Marcus Smart finished with 5 steals. He got a block. He drew a huge charge. He made back-to-back threes in the fourth quarter rally. He did immediately get placed into the starting lineup, which we assumed would happen. I still argued that maybe your rotation made more sense if Vince Williams still started. And then we actually got in the fourth quarter. We got a few minutes of Vince Williams and Marcus Smart playing together, and it was delightful. But overall, just seeing Bane have a huge game, Ja Morant have a huge game again, Marcus Smart have a massive game with all those steals and threes and big plays. And then Jaren also was good and made consecutive buckets in overtime where he basically took over in the paint. His finish where he went one-on-one on a post move against Zion Williamson was extremely difficult. It was an impressive finish. That put the Grizzlies up 2. Then the Grizzlies get a stop, and the Pelicans weirdly sub in Dyson Daniels and then have him guard Jaren one-on-one, which was a mistake. I think maybe that was more confusion than like an actual coaching decision by Willie Green. But Jaren got isolated on Dyson Daniels. He scores, put the Grizzlies up 4, and the Grizzlies win that one. So we're feeling awesome after that game. And then you have this post-Christmas road trip where it's tough on paper, and you go play against the defending champs, the Nuggets, and we find out there's going to be no Ja Morant in the game because he is out with illness. So now we're like, oh, we're 4-0 with Ja. Everything's going great. Let's have a very exciting, fun game against the champs. And then say, all right, no Ja Morant. That's unlucky. And the Grizzlies end up getting just annihilated. I mean, they lost in humiliating fashion. The Nuggets made 23-pointers, beat the Grizzlies by 37. It was the Grizzlies' worst loss of the season. It was the Nuggets' biggest win of the season. The Grizzlies gave up a season-high 142 points. The Nuggets had 43 assists. That's a preposterous number. It's a season high for the Nuggets. The only teams to allow 43 or more assists in a game this season was the Grizzlies and then the Wizards and Pistons. So the Grizzlies did not bring the defensive effort really in this one. And also Jokic. I mean, basically, maybe I should have started with Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic with a perfect game. Did not miss a shot. 11 for 11 from the field. 3 for 3 from the foul line. Gets the third triple-double of his career, where he did not miss a field goal attempt. That ties him for the most ever with Wilt Chamberlain. He also got the second triple-double of his career and just the 5th in NBA history where he didn't miss a field goal attempt or free throw. So there have only been 5 of those games ever. Jokic's the only player to do it twice. So Jokic destroyed you on the inside. And then Jamal Murray, he made 9 out of his 12 field goal attempts. So Jokic and Murray were 20 for 23 from the field. And one slightly funny aspect to that, or I guess gallows humor aspect to that, is the Grizzlies were seemingly selling out to stop those guys by leaving certain players wide open. The game plan appeared to be, let's leave Peyton Watson wide open no matter what and dare him to shoot. Well, guess what? Peyton Watson made 4 3-pointers, had a career-high 20 points, and you left him open the whole game to sell out to stop the paint and to stop Jamal Murray, and Jokic and Murray shot, what is that, like 87% or something? So, whoopsie daisy there. And the Grizzlies lose this one. The first night of a back-to-back, they unfortunately have to play at the Clippers on Friday night. And the loss is not a big deal. I mean, you're an underdog. You're playing without Ja Morant. But the numbers now, it continues just to be so stark. The numbers shouldn't be this stark, as in the Grizzlies with Ja and without Ja. I mean, 4-0 with Ja, 6-20 without Ja. More concerningly or more weird is the fact that the Grizzlies are 2-10 this year when Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. are all available and Ja Morant is out. It shouldn't be that bad. 2 out of 10 is kind of wild. But we don't have to wallow in it because the games keep coming and hopefully Ja Morant gets over his illness. Apparently it's this illness that just takes you 48 hours to kind of work through, and it has been going through the Grizzlies. Like John Conchar missed the Pelicans game. He was out with illness. So then on Thursday, Ja and Santi are out. Unfortunately, that means probably someone else is going to be out maybe in the coming games as it goes through the locker room. I always find it funny looking at the Grizzlies coaching staff. There's like 2 people on the bench wearing N95 masks. That would be me. If it's a GI bug or some other kind of extreme 48-hour illness, no way I'm going to be hanging out with everybody just without any protective gear on. But that's just me. Looking more at the stats against the Nuggets, I guess one of the only bright spots is Desmond Bane had 23 points on 9 out of 13 field goal attempts. He extended his streak of games with at least 3 or more threes to 14. That extends the franchise record. Remember, the previous record was 7. And it also matches the longest such streak in the NBA this season. Kobe White also had a streak with 14 straight games. Jaren only made 5 out of his 15 field goal attempts, had 14 points, 2 steals, 2 assists. Marcus Smart was second on the team in scoring with 17 points and 5 assists, but not a lot of good came out of this basketball game for the Grizzlies. I mean, I was kind of excited about the starting lineup. That's just my brand of nerddom, where they said, all right, no Ja Morant. Well, guess what? It's going to be Vince Williams Jr. getting the start again, and he's going to start alongside Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Bismack. And I'm like, that's a pretty tough starting 5. That is a couple of Defensive Players of the Year plus Vince Williams Jr., and I assume like you should be able to give the Nuggets fits a little bit. It turns out it was furthest thing from the truth. I mean, yes, technically the starting lineup outscored the Nuggets 15-7 to begin the game. So that was success for that starting 5. Then they subbed in Conchar and Roddy, and it got a little out of hand. But then in the second half, in the third quarter, it didn't matter who you played. The Nuggets were still making 3-pointers. Jokic made every shot he took. That is not hyperbole. That literally is what happened. That starting lineup did get outscored. And this falls back to the weirdness of the Grizzlies' record with Marcus and Desmond and Jaren, but no Ja. Really thought they'd be good at defense in these games, and they have not been. They've been pretty good at defense overall, but you thought when Marcus played, and if you didn't have Ja, you could have his minutes be taken by someone who's better than Ja at defense. That formula so far this year has not worked at all. Going back to the Pelicans game, just briefly. In that one, the Grizzlies had 17 blocks as a team. That's a season high and tied for the second highest total in franchise history. The most blocks they've ever had in a game is 19. That's happened twice. Most recently, it happened in 2021. Weirdly, that game was also against the Pelicans. You had Xavier Tillman in that game. His minutes have kind of ticked up recently. He had a career-high 5 blocks against the Pelicans. He also had some rough plays where he did not finish some shots on the interior. Also had like this one play in overtime that stuck out like a sore thumb to me because it's, I think, very illustrative of one of his main problems. It's he did not get a rebound where he had position to get the rebound. Brandon Ingram just jumped straight over his back and got the rebound easily. And that's one of those like, Xavier, you got to put a body on a guy. You have to jump to get these rebounds. So despite Xavier's career high 5 blocks, that Pelicans game just had some moments where I'm like, this is an undersized center who isn't good at finishing and is bad at rebounding, or at least not that good at rebounding. And with him on an expiring contract, even if he is quite good at defense, that's like not a long-term solution probably for the Grizzlies. And then when you watch Bismack, like Bismack was pretty good against the Pelicans. He had 2 blocks of those 17, also had 8 points and 7 rebounds, but that continues to be a pretty huge hole. With the roster, like we got one game. All right, one game where Ja Morant and Marcus Smart were there, and Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. And it just highlighted again, like that's a gaping hole at center. And so we all start thinking probably about whatever these trades are. I'm not going to get into like fake trades in this episode at all, but like it's just one game, but it once again highlighted like that's something we really need to fix. Another thing I thought was interesting about the rotation, and again, it's just one game, but they did not stagger Ja and Marcus's minutes. The common refrain when the Grizzlies traded Tyus Jones for Marcus Smart was, all right, we have a backup point guard now. Marcus can do backup point guard stuff, but he can also play alongside Ja and sort of take over those Dillon Brooks things. Now, we saw this in the games where Ja Morant did not play and Marcus did play, where it's like, all right, Marcus as a primary ball handler isn't going that well for us. But still, maybe I thought once Ja got back, you still would stagger those guys' minutes. No, in this game, again, just one game, but they staggered Ja and Desmond like they've been doing in all of Ja's games, where anytime Ja was off the court, they made sure Desmond Bane was on the court. They kept that up against the Pelicans, but I might have thought, well, when Ja's off the court, you'll have Marcus and Desmond. So you'll have 2 options to handle the primary ball handling duties. Not so far. So the early returns of the Grizzlies got Marcus Smart to be the replacement backup point guard to handle play creation and point guard duties when Ja Morant's off the court. So far, that analysis has been proven totally incorrect. We were way off on that one. So I thought that was interesting. Also, we still had some like Ja Morant playing with some kind of struggly bench lineups, which I feel like maybe we don't need to do that as much. Like they went back to a 10-man rotation, which I thought was interesting. Like they didn't cut anybody necessarily out of the rotation. So Conchar was out with sickness. I assumed that Marcus Smart would just basically take all of his minutes, and then you would DMP one of Zaire or Roddy. You did not. All of a sudden, you played 10 deep. Zaire and Roddy both played against the Pelicans, also both played against the Nuggets. Now, Aldama did lose some of his minutes against the Pelicans. Aldama had his streak of consecutive games with a made 3 snapped. He only played 9 minutes and did not score. So maybe you say, all right, they gave some of Aldama's minutes to Roddy or Zaire. I still want, of course, this is not surprising, like just hammer the minutes for your main guys, and I include Vince Williams Jr. in that. I mean, you're going to keep Marcus's minutes probably under 30 as much as you can, just based on his age and wanting to keep him fresh. But like Bane, Jaren, Ja, and Marcus, you're going to play them a lot of minutes, and then play Vince a lot of minutes. Those are my 5 guys I want to have the most minutes. And anytime like Zaire or Roddy is playing and Vince is on the bench, I'm like, well, what are we doing here? Give me Vince Williams Jr. Like Vince Williams is shooting in the last 2 games. His 3-point numbers are regressing like we predicted and assumed they would, but the activity is still there. Against the Nuggets, he once again tied his career high with 11 rebounds. Against the Pelicans, he had 8 rebounds, including 2 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter. Also, he had 3 blocks, contributing to that huge team number, had 3 assists and a steal. Vince continues doing all the things that I want to see, so continue playing him. I mean, Vince was not sharp, I didn't think, against the Nuggets. Like, he was getting torched by Jamal Murray too. And some of it, this is me showing my ignorance to what like team defensive assignments are. It seems like a lot of it was like, okay, let Jamal Murray go this direction. Like, I'm going to totally overplay him one direction. And so many times Jamal was like, okay, you're letting me go this way. I'm going to drive straight to the basket and score a layup. And that didn't seem like the right tactic exactly. Nothing that Vince was doing was really slowing Jamal down. And again, the whole team just basically getting torched. Anyways, I think that's all we got to do for today. It's still the holidays. I have so many family things to do. And, of course, the Grizzlies are back at it again on Friday night. So, the Grizzlies are in a tough stretch. We knew it was tough when we looked at the schedule, and now you have Ja Morant dealing with this illness. So you play the Clippers on Friday night, second night of a back-to-back, and then you play against the Kings on the road on Sunday night. That's on New Year's Eve. Then you return home for a back-to-back. Now, the matchup looks pretty good. You're playing the Spurs and the Raptors. You're going to be favored in both of those games. But the first game home after a West Coast trip, that is statistically a trap game. As in, there have been studies. I've talked about this before. There are studies showing that teams returning from the West Coast coming back east are statistically notably worse than expected in those games. So you're playing the Spurs, who have 5 wins, 6 wins or something. You should win, but it's a trap game. And this is also an accumulation of a lot of games over a short period of time. You have a back-to-back, as in tonight, Thursday and Friday, December 28th and 29th, there's your back-to-back. Then you have another back-to-back less than a week later. That's tough for the Grizzlies and this team that struggles with their depth. Anyways, that's all for me today. Thank you for listening. As always, if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Again, if you want to get in for the $3 a month into the Slack channel, you can do that for the next 2 days. After that, the price is going up. And remember, if you're already in the Patreon, whatever price you're in at, that is locked in for forever. So go ahead and join in the next couple of days before the prices go up. Anyways, hope you guys have a great New Year's. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.